to entertain myself, I listened to the radio, to NPR, National Public Radio in the States, and they often had in-depth interviews with people. And on this day, they interviewed a guy who was retiring from Stanford University neuroscience department. And they asked him, in the 40 years you've been at Stanford, what is the most profound thing you've learned about the human brain? I went, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here at this moment to hear the answer to this question. 40 years, and this guy's summing it up in one answer, and I get to hear it. And he said, the human brain is a default system. It is not a logical system. Information does not come into the top of the brain and get allocated. It comes bottom up, and the most primitive part of the brain gets the first crack at everything. And if that part of the brain is stimulated, it prevents you from processing that data higher up. It is a default system. That's the over-the-counter human being. That's the way it comes. And you have to deal with it. So I thought, I'd already learned a little bit about this, but that locked it into my brain in a way that made sense. Have you ever learned facts, and then one day you realize, oh, that was the purpose. I learned that for a purpose. I'm just realizing why that was there at all. So after this, I put a little time into describing how this works, because I said, I have to teach this to people because it has a profound effect on human behavior. And anybody who's managing behavior needs to understand that there's this filter operating that modifies the extent to which you can actually get through the circuitry. So if you look at this diagram quickly, you'll see that there are levels of the human brain on the left-hand side, from automatic, unconscious, associative learning, input, output, no processing at the bottom. At least 3 million years old, maybe 12, 14 million years old, that part of the brain. And as you move up, you get more and more analytical synthesis, more what makes us human. The human thinking we're all familiar with. In the middle somewhere is the spreadsheet brain. So it's called the task brain in the limbic system. And so you get locked in on something. It's like studying for an exam. It's the night before, and you will not stop and say, this is interesting. You're going, I've got 5 things, and those 5 things spell this word. I'm going to remember this word, right? That's the tasky brain. The top of the brain says, should I be learning this at all? Why am I in this class? Why am I in this university? What am I doing here? So you have a huge range of possible processing quality across the structures of the brain. Now, the thing that controls which part of your brain is working and your thinking power at that moment is your stress level, your emotion level. So, and it varies momentarily. Have you ever given a speech like this and not remembered what you said? You're up front and literally you're in a panic so much that you walk out and you say, I hope the hell I remembered my speech because I don't know what happened, right? It literally stops you from processing things in a quality way. Now, what happens, you can see these thinking levels. And then, IQs, functional IQ, your ability to answer questions at different IQ levels, pretty much is what this says. Varies from a top level of 100 to 120. I'm not guaranteeing you that if you control this, you'll have an IQ of 120. Okay? But I'm saying whatever you've got, you'll get the most out of it if you can control this. Okay? And it could drop 40 or 50 points or maybe more. Anybody who's ever worked on a construction site has seen this, And I always say the only thing worse than one person with an IQ of 70 is 2 people with an IQ of 70.